Welcome back, ladies. Today we will be doing the Senior Picasso Inspired program. We will be learning about Cubism. We'll be learning how to do one-line drawings without lifting your hand while you're drawing. We'll also be learning how to create a Cubist Couture fashion statement. So I hope you have a fashion for passion, because we will be learning how to draw a figure and creating an idea of an outfit that we might like in Cubist perspective. So let's get started. Again, my name's Hanorah and I work for the Girl Scouts of Suffolk County, and let's get started. So before we begin doing our artwork, I just wanted to go over some quick history so we could understand the artist that we are being inspired by. This is Pablo Picasso, and he's an artist and was born on October 25th in Spain. And when he was growing up, his father was a painter and an art teacher, so he liked to draw from an early age, but he basically had no interest in school. So eventually he ended up attending an art school in Barcelona. And a few years later, he got bored of that as well and wanted to create something new. So he went on to Paris, and unfortunately, one of his closest friends had committed suicide. So during this period, we call it the Blue Period. In the next slide, you'll be able to see that many of the subjects were sad and somber looking. So this is called the Old Guitarist. And as you can see, there's a significant tint of the color blue, and it represented how he was feeling at that time, hence why they call it the Blue Period. You can also see this in his self-portrait. He doesn't look very happy, and it comes out in his paintings. Just the color can create the entire mood for any of his paintings. Then he met somebody, he fell in love with a French model and started working with warmer colors, which brings us to our period of Cubism. In 1907, he began experimenting with a new style of painting. So basically, the subjects of his artwork were analyzed and broken up into different sections. And all the sections were taken apart, and then eventually they were put back together, and they were painted at different perspectives and different angles. So these are examples of Cubism art. And if you see, it's kind of similar to collage work when you put a bunch of different shapes together. So for today's program, we're going to be using these ideas and inspiration to create our own. If you see all these organic shapes, they're brightly colored and they are put together just like a puzzle would be put together. This specific one is a portrait, so that's very similar to what we will be creating. Let's take another look at the next one. As you see, nothing is in its place. It's different shapes, different colors, different sizes. Even some of them are zoomed in or they're not zoomed in enough. So we will be using this as an inspiration. So let's be honest. When you're creating a fashion figure, to come up with different ideas on how you're going to draw your outfit, it can be pretty intimidating, but you don't have to have a fashion degree to learn how to express your ideas down on paper. So before we get started, I just want you to keep a few things in mind. Practice makes perfect. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You can bend the rules a little bit and practice with continuous lines. So there's all different types of pencils that you can use. I prefer using number 2 pencils, but you can also use a mechanical pencil. I also have this really cool, it's called Zwipes, and it's actually a pen that's erasable, so I think that's pretty cool. So I'm going to grab my number 2 pencil, and I'm also going to have an eraser on hand just in case I do want to alter it a little bit. Okay, so the first step to drawing your fashion figure is draw a subtly curved vertical line in a continuous movement. Okay, so we're going to start up here and we're going to just curve it vertically down like so. So usually when you see a person or you see a picture of a clothing item done in a cartoon, it's usually just straight up and down, straight across. But we want to show that there's movement in this figure, so we don't want to make it too straight. Now, I'm probably going to straighten out my bottom part just a little bit. You'll see why in a little while. Okay, so I'm going to straighten it out just a tiny bit, like so. All right, so then the next step that I want to do is I'm going to go about a little less than halfway. So say for instance, here's halfway, right? I'm going to go a little bit above that, right? And I'm going to go from left to right, horizontally up, okay? And I don't want to make it too thick, too big, so I'm just going to do a nice line like so. This is going to be my hip line, so if you want, you can label that, because this could be just a sketch to show you first how to draw a person's body for your couture design. So now I'm going to break this line into 3 parts. So 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to make my middle part just a little bit wider than from here to here. So I want to just mark it. So from here to here, I'll mark it. Okay. And then I'll mark this a little bit bigger so that there's a bigger space, like so. Okay. So now I have my 1, my 2, and then I'm going to make my top part, just so that I can show what I'm doing. Now we have this part, which is the middle of here and here. And then just like we have our hip line going from left to right, we're going to go from left to right, but going a downwards horizontal. So basically the exact opposite way. Okay, now this is going to be my shoulder line. Okay. And then in the middle, I can actually move this up a tiny bit. Like I said, it takes a little practice. So this part is actually going to be my waistline. So I'm going to label that waist. Okay, so you have your hip line, your waistline, and your shoulder line. Now, you'll start to see everything come together once you start drawing the sides and the hips. Okay, so what I want to do is on my shoulder line, I want to make 2 straight up and down lines. And then on my hip line, I want to do the same thing. They're going to be around the same length. So. It's going to be a lot of erasing, so. Okay, so from here, I just want to curve this towards my hip line and curve this like so. And then you're going to curve your bottom half as well, like so. So if we can zoom in a little bit, you could see it's starting to form, right? So here would be where her bust is, if you're doing a female, which I'm creating mine as a fashion statement for myself. So you have your bust line, and then if you want to add in shape here, you can kind of make it look like a bodysuit. Okay. Now you'll also, if you'd like, so we're not going to actually do, you know, a creation of somebody's face. So this is kind of just going to be a mannequin. So I'm going to add a little neckline in here. And if we want, if you extend this line and put across here, you can actually create a head, and you can start beginning. So you would start from this line. This would be the start of the leg. You don't want to make the leg this part. You want to go in a little bit more to the center. And I actually made these a little too long. So we'll start by first making the leg. So I'm going to extend this down. See how I'm extending? So it's not going to be perfect at first, like I said, but I'm staying pretty fluid with my line work, so that way, because this is just a mannequin, you're not drawing a person, you're just drawing a figure to, okay? So you'll use this to start drawing your fashion piece. So now I just added some legs and some arms, and the way that I did this is you can actually, just like we were doing with the proportions on that fluid line that went down vertically, you're going to add up. So if I add a line from where the waist was, here and here, that would divide our upper arm to our forearm, and your waistline is going to match up with your wrists. And I recommend, like I said, just keep practicing. You're not going to get it perfect all at once, and you're just going to have to practice doing pretty fluid lines. You can close your eyes to draw an object, just so that you get, it's all about being able to feel the line work and not worrying about getting it perfect. Okay, so now we're going to create our fashion, and we're all going to be all doing different ones. I'm going to be creating a blazer suit, and I'm going to also either color it, or I will be using newspaper to add in my pattern. So like we were saying with Cubism, I'm just going to draw it over here. With Cubism, it's all about organic and natural shapes. They can overlap, but they are in basic cubes and just different shapes. So you could, you know, I could do a half moon like so. I could, you know, add any patterns that I like. You can do a triangle in here, and then I might make this into a rectangle. And you're just going to keep going until you have a pattern that is bright and it is linear and has a bunch of different shapes in it. So I'm going to time lapse this so that you can watch me work, but we won't take too much time. Colored in my couture piece. So this is runway ready. I probably would have added more subtle lines. The black is a little too thick for me, but like I said, practice makes perfect. And just get creative with it, make it Cubist inspired, and we'll get moving on to our next project. Another type of art that Pablo Picasso used very often was drawing with only one line, or continuous line drawing. So in art school today, it's used to help a student kind of loosen up and understand the idea of a subject very quickly. So continuous lines has a simplicity to it that's essential to its appeal. There's going to be overlapping lines, but that's the whole point. It's basically gesture drawing. So you're getting a powerful message across with just using one line. And Pablo Picasso loved doing this with animals. He loved doing it with people's portraits. So we will be creating our own portraits. I will be doing a cat, and I'll show you a quick idea of how to do so. All right, so I'm going to speak a little louder in this portion. I apologize. They're cutting the grass outside of my apartment, so I'm going to do my best so that you could hear what we are doing. So like we said before, Picasso used one-line drawings to simplify the outside world. So for instance, if you see a flower, flowers are very intricate. You have all different colors. But if you bring it down to its organic self, you can really see a beauty in just the line work. So for you guys, I want you to have a challenge. So before you do your self-portrait, before you can even allow yourself to look in a mirror to draw a one-line drawing of your face, I want you to close your eyes and just imagine what your face looks like. And you'll just start drawing. In this portion, you can, continue using your pencil. You can lift up. Second time around, I'd like you to look in the mirror and do the same exact thing, drawing your face, but without lifting your pencil. I've already done this before, so I'm actually going to show you how I'm going to draw the body of a cat using just one line. So I'm gonna actually use I'll use my Sharpie so that we could see it a little bit better. So typically you'd see a picture of a cat. I'm going to simplify it and only use one line to draw that. Okay, so you'll see I'm just using a very fluid and continuous line. Not lifting up my pencil at all, so you are going to end up overlapping lines, right? So you have your nose. Now I want to draw the cat's eye, and we're going to draw an ear. Other ear. Okay, so I can obviously work a little bit more, but you get the gist of this being a cat. And I didn't even raise or lift my Sharpie. All right, so for our Cubist portraits, you can use any, see what's nice about this program is that you can use any utensils. I sometimes like to use magazine pictures, other times I like to use crayons, colored pencils. So I didn't really use a lot of construction paper pieces, but I would like you to use them if you have construction paper. So for my Cubist portraits, I first want to start off with some basic shapes. So we're just going to We're just first going to make ourselves a nice little border for where our picture would be. So I'm going to create a border. And I'm not worrying too much about it being perfectly aligned, because that's what's fun about Cubism. So you can get creative and messy as you like. All right, so now I want to add in some more shapes throughout here, because what it is abstraction, right? So you are going to be adding the features of your face. They're just going to be in random boxes. So you're just going to create a bunch of different shapes. So I'm just going to put some lines around here and just connect the lines. I just want to make this really patterned. And to be honest, you don't even need a ruler for this part either, unless you want to. I just like to make my shapes a little more sharp. So that's why I'm using a ruler. Like I said, don't be alarmed or worried if it's not perfect. It's not supposed to be perfect. It's just supposed to be abstract. So now I want to think about what are the shapes of my face, right? So I have a chin. My chin would probably be down here. I have my eyes and my nose. So where would I put my eyes? I might want to have one of my eyes here, and I might want to have another eye around here. Maybe put my nose around here. And then I'll start adding my features of my hair and shapes as well. So I'm going to get started. So for instance, what did we say? This would be my chin, okay? So I'm going to add my chin here. Okay, and I might want to put some teeth. Now remember, because this isn't supposed to be a realistic portrait, it's supposed to be a Cubist portrait, you don't want to worry so much about being accurate. That's why mine looks a little more cartoonish. Because it's all about those organic shapes. Right, so there I would have my mouth. I have my ears over here. Chin. All right. Maybe I would do my nose over here. Add maybe an eye over here and an eye over here. So I'm going to keep drawing, as I hope you are as well. So as you can see, it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. Some of them are more zoomed in, some of them aren't, and you kind of are putting together little pieces. So let's pretend that this was a piece of glass that had a picture of me, and I shattered it, and I tried to put all the pieces back together. This is what it might look like. Okay, so here's the part where I'm going to be coloring everything in, and I'm probably going to stick with using colored pencils. But you don't want to worry about it being colored how it normally might be colored. So I'm going to do, for instance, let's see, I think I want to use light orange to color in the eye. And what I also want to do right there is I have blue, so I'm going to use my blue, and I might color in this part blue and overlap so that you could see how the overlapping colors are a little bit different too. Right, so there's my finished product. As you can see, I also Sharpied all the different shapes so that you could see a more abrupt color change. And it looks pretty cool. All right, girls, so I hope that you had a wonderful time joining me, learning a little bit of history, learning how to create your own fashion statements, and learning how to really incorporate organic, natural shapes to create a piece of artwork, just like Picasso did. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next week.